The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Bracken Farms, Stonewall Stud, IRT, it's your horse and our passion, Australasian-wide Garrard's Horse and Hound, Ricciero Racing Stables, Lincoln Farms, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge Raceway, Ashburton Trotting Club, Addington Raceway and Harness Racing New Zealand. Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of Your Box Seat. Michael Guerin. Well, we've had another Inter-Dominion series and it happened both on the track and off it.
Amazing footage, Greg, coming out of Menangle on Saturday. Big hi to you, hi to everybody around the country and all our friends watching in Australia who watch us online. It's great to have your company. You're right, Greg, it's one Inter-Dominion final. We know all about the people involved, the people who won, the people who ran second. We know about the horses. The other one, many people would have been saying to themselves, if they were still awake at 1 o'clock on Sunday morning, who is Bonsall Benjamin? We'll tell those stories, Greg, in the first part of the show today, but also some great racing coming at us in Auckland, Greg, and I believe you have some big news. Stick around on the box seat. Greg's about to break a big one.
Yeah, make sure you do. We also have a profile on Barron, who became famous, of course, for bringing Ricky May back to life, but we really focus on her as a junior driver and how she's come through in our Harness Racing New Zealand profile of our young people in racing. We go to Methven. There's just a whole lot, so you want to stick around. And let's get straight into it by going back across the Tasman to the Inter-Dominion Grand Final for the Trotters. Here was the start of the race, and again, some great footage coming out of Menangle. Getting off the gate smartly, Michael, Majestic Man, as we expected, and then Maori Law made its way to the lead and ultimately the winning spot.
After that, it was a very, very comfortable watch. Anthony Butt, you could see, was driving to follow a horse he wanted to follow. He wasn't keen on following Caligula, who was first off the gate alongside him. Here comes Maori Law in what's a version of the Brosnan colours from the old days. We'll talk about that shortly. He got the lead, no mid-race pressure to speak of, and here Majestic Man comes off his back. Is he good enough to beat Maori Law? Let's find out.
Here comes Majestic Man on the outside. He lets down with a good turn of foot. Maori Law and Majestic Man in a soul-stirring struggle, but Maori Law kicks. Maori Law fights back. Maori Law too good, wins the grand final over Majestic Man.
I thought, wow, Anthony, you've driven Majestic Man perfectly. Waited, he knows Menangle well. Greg Sugars was getting the best out of the Emmett and Richard Brosnan trained Maori Law, but he just couldn't quite get there. A lot of credit goes to Majestic Man. We'll get to the winners shortly because a week earlier, Michael, his series was somewhat in tatters, certainly 10 days ago, so for him to be able to bounce back and get second in the grand final, I thought was a terrific effort. I also thought a remarkable story around the training partnership behind Maori Law, and great insight from you on SENZ on Sunday. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and anyone can have a listen to that via the HRNZ website. Talking to Richard Brosnan about all things about his life, and very shortly you also followed that up with a discussion with his son Emmett.
Yeah, getting to Majestic Man first, Greg, I agree. He's never been a horse we've viewed as the toughest or strongest horse, maybe often the fastest. So for him to bounce back was massive, and Anthony and Sonia Smith, his fiancée, did a super job with him. At the 200, I thought he might get him, and to be honest, I think the best version of Majestic Man may have, but Maori Law's always been a good horse. He's a horse who was a very good age group horse when he was actually driven a lot by the late Gavin Lang, and he was just getting sore and annoyed and had all those little issues that stop good horses becoming better horses. But then the Brosnans took him over. But Greg, we'll let them tell that story. Richard Brosnan we all know well. Last time many of us saw Emmett Brosnan, he was probably a kid. He's a kid no longer. Let's hear from him about this remarkable family victory. Well, Emmett Brosnan, welcome to the box seat. How does it feel when you hear that you are an Inter-Dominion Trotting Championship winning trainer?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, Mick. Can't really believe it, and it probably hasn't quite sunk in totally yet. But yeah, no. So I mean, it's a great feeling, great position to be in.
You were based obviously in Pukekohe and in South Auckland for a long time. What made you take the leap of faith across the Tasman to Victoria?
I suppose I got to a point after working for Dad for a few years that I sort of had to try to make my own path a little bit and learn new experiences. And I'd actually come over to Victoria with Pompelia for a trotting intermediate series, funnily enough, and just really liked the scene over here. And so I thought when I got the opportunity with Jeff Webster to sort of work under him and drive a bit under him, I thought I'd take it.
Okay, so now you're training with your dad, but I know your dad moved to Victoria to try and be maybe semi-retired. So is it more a business where you're setting it up and you're hoping to take it more forward and Dad's helping out? Is that how it works at the moment?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I suppose, you know, for lack of a better term, you could say I'm probably captain of the ship. But I mean, with his experience, you know, it'd be silly not to have him on board. That's kind of how I saw it. I was going to do it regardless. But I knew Dad wasn't going to, you know, retire and just, you know, live in the burbs or anything like that. So, you know, we sort of linked up and it was kind of sliding doors and it's all kind of worked out well.
So tell me how Maori law came to be under Brosnan rule.
Yeah, so I knew Fred, obviously. Jeff's trained for him. I've driven for him a little bit in the past when I was a concession driver. And my sister, Virginia Brosnan, she's a veterinarian at Melton, based in Melton. And she basically does the vet work for Maori law and Fred, a lot of his horses. And so when Bill Morgan retired from training, you know, Fred thought he'd send it to my dad and myself, and sort of a smaller kind of niche kind of setup, obviously with the issues that the horse has, and so yeah, obviously very grateful for that.
You got a big win a couple of months ago at Melton. What was it like being on the grass at Menangle, watching them come down the home straight in an Inter-Dominion trotting final, and you've got the favourite and it's in front?
Unbelievable. Like, we obviously won the Australasian Trotters Championship maybe half a dozen starts earlier, but there was just something about this. Obviously, you know, there was a little bit of a crowd there and atmosphere there as well, which was like a different dynamic to when we won the first race. You know, so when he was coming down, and I was, you know, both Dad and I were super confident in the horse. If he got the right run, that he could do the job. But still, you know, it's still almost unexpected and unbelievable. And yeah, I think there's a video of us just after you cross the line. I probably looked a little bit silly there, but I thought, oh, well, you know, that's what it's all about. And yeah, we're just ecstatic.
Tell us the Oscar story about you screaming Oscar down the home straight.
Well, you know, stable name's Oscar. And so, you know, we're not going to be yelling out Maori law. We're kind of yelling out Oscar, you know, come on, mate. And I think there was a bit of a crowd around us down on the grass, and they sort of looked around. We started screaming and hang on, mate. And so they all sort of joined in, this kind of crowd around us. They started yelling, all right, then, oh, come on, Oscar, mate, come on, mate. And so they kind of helped get him home too.
Mate, that's awesome. It's an amazing thing to do at your age. You're only 34 years old and obviously setting up training, but must be so much more special with your dad, because the Inter-Dominion trotting final, it's pretty hard to think of the name Brosnan in harness racing without thinking about Bonnie's chance. And of course, no response in that race in 1979, quite a while before you were born.
Yeah, that's it. And, you know, we always looked up to Dad so much, and, you know, you hear the stories, you watch the videos, and I essentially, I guess I just wanted to emulate that and try to create my own little piece of history as well. The fact that I could do it with Dad, I think is just so special. You know, we get to share it together. We're a family, stable family business, and yeah, so it just makes it all that much sweeter.
Once all the celebrations and the hugging and handshaking and presentations had stopped, did you have a chance to talk to your dad, son to father, about the experience and about what you had accomplished after the race, a little bit further on when the emotion or the privacy was yours to be enjoyed?
Yeah, he did. I think, you know, Dad doesn't give you a whole lot, but like, I think when we got back and it was just us, and he kind of said that, you know, that one felt like even better than the first because he got to do it with me, and we did it together. And it, you know, there's no, you know, iron team here. Like, we genuinely did it together. We brought the horse up, worked him up. I took Dad up to Sydney and then come back to be with the team and race the rest of the team and then go back up again, obviously. And for him to say that, like that, you know, that means everything to me.
Emmett, if you're the captain of the ship and your dad's helping out on the ship, what happens when there's a decision to be made at the stables and you want to do one thing and Dad wants to do something different?
Well, getting told to do something by me is a lot better than getting told to do something by Dad. I can give you the tip, but nah, we actually working pretty good. You know, like Dad was, you know, a pretty hard customer growing up, but then that gives you a good work ethic. And obviously, you know, I spent a lot of time under Jeff Webster as well, and I learned a hell of a lot of him too, training wise. So we do work pretty good together. There's nothing, you know, we don't really come loggerheads on much at all. We kind of just try to do what's best for each individual horse. I think I'm actually surprised at how more open Dad is to, like, I kind of like to do things a little bit less, you know, mainstream, or, you know, I use a straight track quite a bit, like, you know, and a few different bits and pieces. And then he sort of likes to sort of just maintain that, you know, that core kind of base horsemanship as well into it. So it's kind of like a good mix, and we do work quite well together now that, like, you know, I'm a little bit older and stuff like that.
Well, Emmett, from all of us at the box seat and back here, back home for you, to you, to your wife, Bridie, to your dad, and of course, Julia, your mum, to everybody involved in the Brosnan setup, mate. Congratulations. We're thrilled for you, and it's great to see the green, the blue, and the gold back in the winner's circle after a super big race, mate. So well done.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you, everyone that gave us all the support too throughout the series. It was so awesome.
Well, Michael, that was an awesome insight to a young man who's clearly got his life going in the right direction, training alongside his father, which, as he said, at times he was a tough dad. He made sure they wanted to work, and working together and combining to win an Inter-Dominion, 42 years after the no response incident over my back shoulder at Addington Raceway, where he stormed home to win the final. I think there's just so many facets to this story which make it intriguing and make it very, very special.
On the horse first, as mentioned, he was a very good horse, and they've found a way to get the best out of him. On Emmett, as he heard, he's 34. For some reason, he just seems a lot younger to me, Greg, but then again, I've known him since he's about 10. So he's heading the right way with his career, and really interesting to talk about the fact that, you know, he doesn't just see himself as a horse trainer. He wants to have other things in his life, which is great. But Richard's sort of the story of the race. He was a guy I grew up idolising, Greg, not because of no response, because of Bonnie's Chance, a horse he had. It was the horse who actually made me fall in love with harness racing. So maybe for harness racing people it wasn't a good thing. But everybody has the same word to describe Richard. He's always been a gentleman. He's been one of those quietly spoken, a guy who you knew you could trust. He came through an era, Greg, when there was just some shenanigans going on in harness racing. We know that. There was a milkshake era there. And during that era, Richard was a person who didn't participate in that. I've had honest conversations about that in the past with him, and probably to his detriment. And then his career changed in so many ways. I don't think he ever really suited Alexandra Park. I don't think it was his sort of racetrack with his driving style and maybe even his training style. So he had a good career after those golden days, but Greg, they put a big, giant exclamation mark on it on Saturday night, and it's a wonderful harness racing family story. It's a wonderful New Zealand-Australian mixed story, Greg. I really enjoyed it. I know this wasn't the biggest or boldest Inter-Dominion trotting series ever held, but hell, it produced some good stories.
Yeah, it did, and as he quite rightly pointed out, they can never take it away from you. It's something that they've achieved together as a father and son, and congratulations to Greg Sugars too. Drove the horse beautifully, and yeah, real highlight, the Trotters final. Let's go to the Pacers final, completely different set of circumstances. Here's the start, Michael, and as many predicted, Bonsell Benjamin exploded off the gate and took a trail behind Expensive Ego after he popped back around. He's very quick off the machine, isn't he? But after that, well, things just got a little bit hairy, so to speak.
They did. Punters would have felt really comfortable here. David Moran is outside the leader. He rolls to the front. Why is it not in the usual colours? Because they're using drivers' colours in New South Wales. So David Moran goes clear here on Expensive Ego. King of Swing, about 3 wide in the middle of the track, is done. And then Bonsell Benjamin goes to the inside and David Moran shuts the gate. Comes around him and he runs him to a head, and most importantly, watch this footage after the line. Watch the last 20 metres after the line. He's in front very, very quickly after the line. Not for long, Greg, but he's in front for enough. Now, I thought Australia, being Australia, I thought the winner would hold, only because they don't often put them out, or don't put them out as easily in Australia as they do here. But the right decision was made. Here's the head on. Expensive Ego, 2 off the markers. Bonsell Benjamin goes to the markers. He had established the intent of a run. I don't think his legs were inside the sulky wheel. So you wouldn't say that the gap was totally his, but it was enough, Greg. I'm absolutely convinced it was enough. I wanted Expensive Ego to win because I wanted an unbeaten champion in the series. I think I was on him for something small, not that that matters at all, but I can't argue with the result. The result was right for young Jason Grimson, who doesn't like talking to the media. He's quite a shy guy, so we're not hearing a lot about him or from him. For Josh Gallagher, who drove the horse, who's just 21 years old and has been doing some really good things at Menangle on Tuesday afternoons and Saturday nights. And for Steve Duffy and his wife Julie, they own the horse in Victoria, Greg. And Steve's a battling trainer, and he battled around with this horse who had some leg issues before sending them to Jason Grimson. And Bonsell Benjamin's named after Steve's dad, whose name was Bonsell Benjamin Duffy. I said to Steve, why was your dad called that? Are you French? He said, no, I don't know why it was called that. And he said to me, the pressure we put on the horse, because he was unraced, obviously, when you name a horse, and he said, naming a horse after your dad's a pretty big deal. And for that to unfold, the horse to go sore and be racing in claimers and then end up winning the Inter-Dominion pacing final, Greg, via the inquiry room. And Steve and Julie drove home to Victoria and stopped by their father's grave, or Steve's father's grave, and put the trophy there. So even though it wasn't a race which gave us maybe the glamour, Greg, we would hope for, or even for most people the money, it's a beautiful story. It really is. And most of us out there, you know, have relationships with our fathers, and if we named a horse after them, Grego, you know, if you named a horse Brian O'Connor, I'm sure you'd want to be pretty good.
You couldn't get a better result, could you? So congratulations to them. I thought Expensive Ego very good. There's no doubt that David Moran steered the horse back to that inside position. So you're right. I think they got it right. Ultra Orlando, Michael. This remarkable horse that just keeps on performing. The late Neil Pilcher will be looking down just going, well, have a look at this bloke. How is he possibly still going, still owned by New Zealand connections, and he's marching towards $1 million, which is remarkable considering that at the end of his 3-year-old career, he was basically finished.
I had one proper bet in the race, Greg, on the day of the race. I think I was on Expensive Ego for something small earlier. I backed Ultra Orlando to run top 4.
Right.
And the reason was this.
Markers.
Mm. Once you start, and I go on about it all the time, and occasionally a horse like Lazarus can defy that. Occasionally. Sunday's Son of the Dominion last year, they can defy it because they're good enough. But the first 3 home in the Inter-Dominion trotting final, so the first 3 home, markers. First 4 home in the pacing final, markers. It's just such a big advantage, Greg, over distance racing. We know that New Zealand Cup this year, leader, marker, last year self-assured. We can go on and on about it forever. Amazing dream in the Auckland Cup last year. It's so become the most definitive thing in harness racing now, Greg, that all algorithms and all punting should be based around it in distance racing.
Well, isn't there no better example, Michael, than where King of Swing ended up?
100%. Give a king a swing of the trail, it wins for sure. Yeah. And we keep going on about that to people, but we want them to win money, so they keep investing in harness racing. But I spoke to Anthony Budd about it the other day, and he said the good horses these days aren't any faster than the good horses we had with Blossom Lady and Christopher Vance and Choker. They're not any faster, but they can hold it for longer. And because they can hold it for longer, they're screeching from the 800, and the other horses can't get around them, Greg, and they lose so much ground on that final bend. So it's become the two biggest trends in harness racing. One of them is the speed developing between the 800 and the 400. It's a lot faster than it used to be. And the inability of horses to get into the races wide. Obviously in handicaps, Greg, and obviously with the Lazarus type horses, it can still happen. But as we saw the other day at Menangle, you pick good horses up against the market pegs, Greg, and there's just no beating them out wide anymore. Not very often.
Well, that was the Inter-Dominion Series for 2021. We'll put that to the side and come back across this side of the Tasman and start concentrating on this very good Christmas carnival at Alexandra Park. Here's Life's a Beach. She's been in Australia, in Victoria. Didn't have a whole lot of luck there, but Michael, the most remarkable thing here was her price at the end. Ben Butcher was in the cart for Tony Barron, who was registering win number 500 in his training career. And as they hit the line, he got that 500th win, and we'll hear post-race from some of the connections.
Life's a Beach too good. Second over Bella Montana, and the third across was Need You Now.
Well, that's a nice catch drive, and you drove it perfect too. You might be on next week as well.
Oh, we'll see what happens, but yeah, no, it was a good handy catch drive to have for the week, and it went a really good race and put a little rough one in early, but we got across and got the good trip and had a bit too much speed up the lane.
Was that the plan, to get across it and trail what looked the natural leader, because it's a lot easier on the marker pegs when you're going 238?
Oh, 100% it is, but I just never really had a plan. I was always going to let it run out the gate and see where we ended up, but it worked out well in the end and just went from there.
What sort of feel does she give you? Because she's a filly who's come an awfully long way in 2021.
Oh, she has, and she's a nice filly and felt like I had a bit of bottom to it and a bit of speed. Like with the right trip, it's always going to be thereabouts, and got home really good tonight.
The good news is Tony Barron watches the box seat, so if you need a sling, now's the time to make an appeal, or you can wait till after you win next Friday.
I'll just take the drive. That'll be all.
Well, Zachary, that was really good after having an early dip for the lead, which didn't pay off.
Yeah, look, they run that first 600 pretty quick. Had to do a bit of work from wide in the gate, and lucky enough to get 3 deep, but 2:38 and then it's pretty quick time off one trial. So got a little bit tired halfway up the straight, but I was wrapped with the way she finished it off.
Should be better for the next coming Friday?
Will be better. Confidence, eh?
Does she feel like she still has the killer instinct? Because she's had a very interrupted last 18 months.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's still in her, like anything, when you have that long off, to jump straight back in against the good ones again. It's tough work. You've got to hard into that racing, and times like that, the more she goes around, the stronger and fitter she's going to get. So I believe in her. She's one of my favourite horses, so I think she'll come right.
What did you make of that, Brent?
Oh, very good, Mick. She got held up at the 250, and probably if she'd got at it then, she may well have picked them up, but if not, she was going to be a good, credible second anyway. But look, she hit the line great, and I'm sure with another week under her belt, she'll be spot on.
Was it a case that coming back from Australia and having to travel, there was probably some natural improvement there?
Oh, without a doubt, Mick. She was very tired when she got here, and look, just obviously followed what Mark said to do with her this last couple of weeks, and look, the last 4 or 5 days has been very good. So tonight's run, even though she's a bit unlucky, might sound strange, but it probably wouldn't have done her any harm rather than getting a gut buster run. But I think looking forward to next week, it has to be very hard to beat.
You've been involved in some very good mares racing here in this race, the Queen of Hearts coming up with the likes of Better Cover Lover. This is a nice bunch of mares.
Good bunch of mares, but I'd say this mare's as good as any of them.
So clearly that's the key lead-up race to this week's Roslin's Queen of Hearts, Roslin's stud, Michael Guerin. Love the way Better Twist found the line. Brent Mangos will retain the drive this week. But let's focus on Life's a Beach. She's come back clearly from Australia. It's probably hardened her up a little bit. She's got very good early speed. She got in the right spot there. And good mate of yours, Tony Barron, racked up a pretty important milestone.
It's a lot of wins. He's never had a big team, Tony, and he's changed the way he trained. I had a really good conversation with him on the radio on Sunday, and he said, I used to train them too long and too hard, but at the time it worked. And he said he was listening to a podcast with Matty Johns about rugby league and about how they've stopped training the players so hard. and they've got more on the tank. And he said he does a lot more of that now. A lot more speed work, a lot less long work, and it's made his horses faster. And you can see that. The T. Barron horses in the old days, in the yellow and red colours, always were up the front of the field, sticking it to the leaders, one batting and getting the job done. No one batting here, Gregory. No one batting here. So it's a sign of a mature person when they can say, hey, I've been doing this for a while, but I'm going to change. And it's really sticking by. This horse, again, the marker pegs, provided the 1 and the 2 because they're going so quick, Gregory. That's a pretty big indicator for this week. I think Better Twist might be the best horse in this bunch, Greg, but Stylish Memphis gets a different draw this week, gets barrier 2. Better Twist is still going to need to work really hard, and that's going to be the bane of her career, Greg. On the big track at Addington and Ashburton, she's going to outstay these horses almost every day of the week. I'm not sure that's the case at Melton and Alexandra Park, where cutting the corners at high speed gives you so much of an advantage. The Better Twist is in front, Greg, with a lap to go. Beautiful. If she's not, she's going to have to win this the very, very hard way.
Yeah, I think she might be. Let's have a look at the market for that. She's opened up $2.70 and she's got the right driver in B Mangos to be going forward, that is for sure. Need You Now from the insides drawn to get the perfect run. $7 the price there. Stylish Memphis has Ricky May back in the bike at $6, as is the price for Life's a Beach. And Darling Me is a $7 chance. Bella Montana, $8 for her, and the Honey Queen, $9. It's a really good crop of mares, as you said in that interview with Brent.
Very balanced race, Greg. There's a lot of speed, there's a lot of Jules winners in here, and Oaks winners. So you know they'll cop speed racing. But there's a lot of speed from the inside, and I reckon it might take them 600 or 800 metres to sort themselves out, Greg. And if they do that and Better Twist is working after that, you think everybody would want to hand up to her, but 270's okay. I'm not jumping on it with any great energy because she just has to work so hard on these smaller tracks, Greg. I think she's a totally different horse. I think she's the best horse in the race, but I think she's a totally different horse at Addington or Ashburton when she can get a head of steam up. She may well win here. I'm not saying she can't, but I need to be confident she's going to be in front to be backing her, Greg, and I'm not confident of that yet.
All right, spoke to Brent Mangle. She's bounced through that race beautifully. He said she was pretty tired when she got from Australia, as you would expect, but he said she's improved, and he reckons she'll be improved again for Friday night. A horse that was back at Alexandra Park, Bolt for Brilliance. And he was exactly that, in front and doing it the way he likes to. Some excellent runs in behind. Temporale and Tony Cameron getting through on the inside. And Massive Metro's back in town, which is great too. Let's get to the winning post and then to Tony Herlihy and Bernie Hackett.
Get Bolt for Brilliance. He's back where he likes to be. Bolt for Brilliance under the ribbon of light at Alexandra Park. A brilliant win.
What sort of feel did Bolt for Brilliance give you?
He felt good. He actually felt the best at the 400 when he sort of started to really get a bit racy then. And he had to do a bit of work, obviously, to get there. And fitness-wise, he probably wasn't 100%. But, that race should do him no harm.
Considering Temporale has very high gate speed, it's a nice sign that he's building his gate speed, Bolt for Brilliance.
Yeah, he's getting more confident about it. And he's nice gated off the mobile. So, yeah.
Is he travelling better in front, Tony? Because sometimes there's one version of him which is very racy and another version which is very lazy.
Yeah, probably the trip down south and that has made him a bit sharper again, and it's just taking a bit of a big learning curve with him.
Okay, he has different options heading forward over the next month. I take it you might miss next week and go to the Green Lane Cup?
At this stage I was, yeah. I thought that run under his belt and, we'll be right for the Green Lane Cup, I think, at this stage.
Melbourne has an awfully big race, or a couple of really big races in the Great Southern Star, and a Dullard Cup coming up in late summer. Is it a case you'll wait to see how the COVID protocols and restrictions are before you're making any decisions with the owners?
We'll have to discuss all that and see how it is at the time, and just see how he goes through those next few races, which will tell us even more. He's got a couple at Cambridge after the New Year one here, so we'll see what happens after that.
The Great Southern Star, Tony's gone back to 2 mile races, more or less, in one night. Is he the type of horse who would cop that?
I think he would. He's a very relaxed horse and nothing sort of perturbs him too much, so... so I don't think it'd be a worry, and they've all got to do it, so he either will or he won't, yeah.
Would you like to go to Australia again, Tony, or would you be willing to send the horse to somebody else?
I'd like to travel with him, obviously, and know him very well, and there's no Jim Curtin over there, so
We could send Jim with him.
yeah, we probably could. I'd have to talk to Sandy about that. Yeah, no. So at this stage, I'd like to go with him if we go, but you never know.
A couple of good runs there, Bernie. Massive Metro looks like he's getting back to it.
Yeah, Mick, he's had 12, probably 18 months off the scene, injuries. So, yeah, he's going to take a few runs to hit that top peak again, you know.
Probably not a bad thing to have that not absolute top Group 1 racing here over December, because he gets a chance to sort of feel his way back into it.
Yeah, dead right. You know, that hard Group 1 racing, it kills those old ones coming back, you know, and he'll just poke around and, yeah, he'll come back, and I think he stays sound, he'll be right, yeah.
Everybody at Wallace Hackett Racing must just love Temporale. Every week turns up, off the gate, handicaps, doesn't matter, rinse and repeat, and off he goes again.
Yeah, he's such a great old horse. It's just a pity Bolt for Brilliance is there. But, you know, like...
He won't be next week, by the way.
Yeah, so they say. Temp will be, hopefully. Yeah, he's just a great horse to have around, and he's so happy, you know. He loves the beach work, and he's just, yeah, he's a pleasure to train.
Young Tony Cameron's done a really good job on him. I know he's not a junior driver anymore, but there's a lot of pressure driving a horse like him off an array of handicaps and wide draws, and he's been beautifully handled.
Yeah, Weenie's done a great job. I've known him since he was shorter than me. And
pretty short, Bernie.
Yeah, mate, yeah. You know, like, I've known him for a long, long time, and he's done a great job, and he's handled them right, and he's driven a lot of other winners for us too, you know, and he does a great job.
So win number 13 from just the 30 starts and over 400,000 now. So great to have him back. He won't be at the park this week, Michael, but the Wallace Hackett team will be. And when we come to discuss those in a moment, let's roll in a bit of footage from Sunday. So a pretty poignant time in the family life of the Hackett family, and a really appropriate win here because Robbie Close got the business done with Times Are A-Changin'.
Flying through the centre, favourite got up. Times Are A-Changin', Robbie Close, that one's for Nana. Second over.
Yeah, you can see the big salute here from Robbie. So Robbie's Nana was Nancy Hackett, who is Bernie's mother, who passed away. Now, that was obviously after I spoke to Bernie on Friday. So as anybody knows, it's an incredibly emotional time for everybody. Wonderful harness racing people. And you can see this meant an enormous amount to the Goose. What a wonderful way to pay respect to your grandma. And of course, for Bernie and Michelle, who just keep winning races all the time, these trotting races at Alexandra Park, and will probably do so again this week, Greg. So our condolences go to them, and obviously it's a nice touch what Robbie was able to achieve on Sunday. But Nancy loved her horses, and she'd be immensely proud of what all branches of the family have been able to do.
All right, they don't have to cop Bolt for Brilliance this week, Massive Metro and Temporale, so who wins out of those two?
Start so crucial. Temporale can make a real flyer, as you know, Greg. And if he gets in front of Massive Metro, he'll probably beat him. But, gee, 2,200 metre races, Greg. 20 metre handicaps. I know it's not impossible, but it's not my cup of tea to be backing those sort of horses. Bolt for Brilliance, waiting for New Year's Eve, and we all know he's turning up there now. The news coming out yesterday, Sunday Sun is turning up there. So, Greg, this is a massive story for the next 2 months of New Zealand harness racing and Australasian harness racing. Sunday Sun trialled today, Tuesday, if you're watching this on Tuesday, online, at Ashburton in a red-hot trial. Heavyweight hero and 5 wise men. It's a pretty good trial. It's a Group 1 trial. And then John said he's so well, we're going to take him up there, race him on New Year's Eve in the Green Lane Cup against Bolt for Brilliance and Temporale. Then they go to Cambridge on the 7th for a 1,700 metre mobile, which they'll use as a trial, because Cambridge is very similar to Melton. And the Great Southern Star, which is on the 4th of February, is 2 1,700 metre races back to back, 2 in the same night. So Cambridge is perfect to see if he can cop that. So Greg, he should head, if he goes well at Cambridge, to the Dullard Cup on the 29th of January, then to 2 races in one night for the Great Southern Star for $300,000. A couple of weeks later, they have a $50,000 race the night pistol next week, actually, and then 2 weeks later, the Australian Trotting Champs, Greg. Sunday Sun, if he goes to Australia, will race for $550,000, Greg, in a month, and then they'll come back here and they can race for another 450 grand. I think it's wonderful, Greg, that our best trotters can race for $1 million in 4 months. I'm not sure he's perfectly suited to Australia, but I think they'll get an indication at Cambridge, Greg, and they'll also be able to test his gate speed. And I'd love to see him turn up over there, Greg, at his absolute best and race to his New Zealand potential. Not a parochial thing. I just think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree. And of course, we've seen his gate speed back when he won the Harness Jewels at Addington on that very wet day, but it's a different sort of gate speed over there. So yes, I think Cambridge will be crucial in terms of that. Let's get into a bit of a preview of Friday night, and Bad to the Bone is back in town. This is him versus Copy That at the trials, Michael. 57.5, 26.5. He's in front. Copy That runs him down, but going into the Thames Goldfields Summer Cup, it's a handicap. He starts off 10 metres, and his biggest rival will be winner at Cambridge, of course, last time in BD Joe.
Yeah, and hot and treacherous. I think it's a pretty tidy little race. It's not a superstar race because the big three, as we know, Copy That is heading to Australia. He's racing in Cranbourne, so he's not going to be sticking around. He's racing this weekend, of course, at Cranbourne, so good luck to the connections there on Saturday night. Then we don't have South Coast Arden or Self Assured. So these are the next bunch, Greg, along with Krug, who trialled on Tuesday. So Krug spoke to Crandell-Giddy. He is likely to come up for the big Franklin Cup on New Year's Eve. So I think it comes down to the standing start. I think Hot and Treacherous isn't a long way behind these horses. I think BD Joe might be the best of them, Greg. But as a betting race, it's really tricky because if one horse scrambles away, it completely changes the context of the race. But having that base group there, and then you might add a couple more, plus Krug to the Franklin Cup, plus the Fillies race, which is really hot, and Sunday Sun versus Bolt for Brilliance, Greg, all of a sudden New Year's Eve is actually looking like a far better version of what I thought it might be when those programs first came out, Gregory.
Yeah, exactly. $2.70 Hot and Treacherous, and then $3.20 Bad to the Bone, and of course BD Joe. Looking forward to that, as I am the Northern 2-year-old Stakes. And we've got a couple of videos here for you. Chimichurri, last start win was strong, Michael, holding to the line race rider Ideal Funding, who was excellent in second, but Chimichurri went back to back, comes up with a beautiful barrier draw of 3-2 because he has exceptional early gate speed, so looking forward to seeing that, because you know he'll be in front. But he's up against Major Perry and Montana DJ, and we've got the footage of their latest workout, Michael, and they got home in 57.26.9, so this is a good form line for this race.
It is. Of course, Major Perry went to Christchurch and was on the track for the Sire Stakes final, and then came off the track because apparently he was sore. So clearly he's not sore on that video. He's pacing beautifully. Montana DJ's a high-class horse. Greg, I think they might be better than a Chimichurri horse, but I don't know much about him. I haven't seen him enough to know whether that was as good as he goes last start or whether he's got another 2 lengths. And maybe we're going to find that out Friday night. But my natural inclination is to go for Major Perry, but I just haven't seen enough of these horses under pressure, Greg. It's one thing when they're going 42s and 40s, it's a different thing when they go 37s and 38s, but probably you're going to go for Major Perry. But yeah, he's had a very up and down last couple of months.
Yep, he certainly has that. That's Alexandra Park Friday night. We'll get into a bit of a preview of Addington later on. Time for us to take a short break here on Your Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. And on the other side, we'll go to that Harness Race New Zealand young person's profile, and today it's Ali Barron. Just because your name's Barron doesn't mean you are always going to be involved in the sport.
No, not to begin with. I was always a rider instead of a driver. I transitioned sort of late high school years and into uni, so yeah.
How'd the ponies go for you?
All right. I was a wee bit actually windy with the ponies, which is funny because I don't feel that when I'm driving, so I guess I've transitioned the right way.
Tell me about uni and what you studied and why the lure of the harness game got you involved.
So yeah, I went to uni. I graduated with a physio degree. I worked for a year and a half as a physio. I was leaving work to go and drive at the races at this point. I got my juniors in my last year of uni and sort of got too tough doing both, and I just picked the one that I enjoyed more.
Yeah, well, you got a win, of course, for your dad, which is pretty cool, and some joy, I think it was, having her first start. They went about 154 or something.
Yeah, no, that was a... I've learned from that since, but Dad said there's no time to go back over a mile, so here I was off the track, but she was good enough, so I was lucky.
With your dad and your uncle, both in the 1,000 win club, there's a bit to live up to.
There is a wee bit. I guess I've had a lot of people say, oh, you know, your dad drove for us and he's won this many races. I guess I'm getting a wee bit more of a name for myself now, which is nice. But, you know, 1,000's a long way away, but 100 would be a nice start, yeah.
You're loving it though. You've started at Stonewall as well here and now based in Canterbury, and they've got some pretty nice stock, so I'm picking it's a good place to work.
Absolutely, no, lovely horses, great people, a super setup, really professional setup. I'm looking forward to January when a lot of them turn 4. That's my goal, I think, but they've given me a couple of drives already, which I'm really grateful for.
It's great to catch up with you, Ali. Congratulations on the way the career's gone so far, and looking for you to get your own skivvy at some stage so you can put your own name on it.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
So a big thank you to Ali Barron and to Harness Racing New Zealand. Michael, just touching on the Barron name and what influence it's had on harness racing. We know her uncle Tony obviously got a milestone at the weekend. 58 winners she's driven, Ali. She's vivacious. She's always really up for a chat on a race day, and I just thought it was important that we have a yarn to her away from the whole Ricky May incident, because I wanted to concentrate on her ability to drive.
Yeah, and clearly she can drive, you know, as her dad could. Clark was a good driver as well, Greg, so look, they're a skilled family. They know what they're doing, and as you said, it's nice when you see young people who are talkative and chatty and getting involved in life, Greg, because these days a lot of people spend all their time on the phone, which isn't the real world. She doesn't seem that sort of girl, so great to have her on the show, and really enjoy getting the young people on the box here, Greg, which makes you and me sound incredibly old now.
Yes, it does, rather. And of course she works for Stonewall now, and as I mentioned there, she's wearing a dad's skivvy with CJB on it. I said, you're nearly getting to a point where you can get your own. So, yeah, she really enjoyed that. Milestone on Friday night for Andrew Garters. This horse getting the business done was Reggie Go Lightly, getting through on the inside there. It was win number 50 for Andrew. He and his father Bob and mum Maxine, they've raced quite a few horses together. The likes of Keep Right On Dreaming, probably the best of them. Dreamy Damien did a good job. Momentous has as well. So congratulations to Andrew. That's a big result for the family, and he's quite a big horse. They wanted to have him in the Futurity final, and just a couple of things went awry leading into that. So to win one of the consolations was big for them. So congratulations to Andrew Garters, win number 50 in his training career. And back at the head of the field, Gerard O'Reilly got the job done for that milestone there. That was Reggie Go Lightly. Pace and Pride got his season back on track with a pretty game performance. He was in the right race. He had to sit park, but he was able to drive pretty hard to the line. Last of the Mohicans in the Lawrence Hanrahan colours in behind them is probably the one to follow out of the race. Didn't have a whole lot of luck late in the piece there, and it's pretty hard held at the finish. But Pace and Pride back winning, and winning nicely, takes its place in race number 6 at Addington Raceway on Friday night, and it'll be pretty competitive again, although does take on Laver and True Fantasy and Steal the Show, who we'll get to in a preview for that race. But nice to see Mark Purden and Pace and Pride winning once again. I wanted to have a look at this horse in the last race. I'll bring you in here, Michael, because you don't see this very often at Addington. That's him wide on the track. Ricky May, the goal cap, just bumps him out 4 wide there. He loses momentum and goes rough. I don't know if you saw this race. There he is. He gets a bit rough in his gate. He's still 4 wide there, Michael. And he comes to the outside here and picks them up and does it in really good style. I thought it was a very good performance. And that young lady, Sarah O'Reilly, after her health scare, has been doing nothing but winning races each week since. And this is a big run. You don't see this at Addington too often these days, Michael. You
don't see it anywhere, Greg. Very often. Not often horses are going backwards at the 600 and going forwards at the 200, because it's hard to lose that momentum. He might be a pretty decent horse. Obviously big, long, striding type of horse, Greg. Has a pretty decent sized hop on him by the look of that. So, yeah, watch with interest. Saw it in the stabling area at Alexandra Park, and a few people said the same thing, Greg. They were like, wow, that was a bit unusual, but When Sarah O'Reilly started driving, Greg, you know, you naturally go to the family name and you think, oh yeah, she's an O'Reilly, she'll be able to drive them. She's actually now embellishing the family name. She's adding to it because she's doing such a great job. And as you said, she had a recent little setback with health, but yeah, she's back now and she's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, burst appendix, and not a whole lot of fun, but it hasn't affected her driving. And Colin Harrison's always had a reasonably sort of handy sort of horse too. Righto, let's move to the Green Miles, Michael, and Oscar made it 3 on the bounce on a bit of a damp Methven Mount Harding track.
Well done to Methven. They've managed to produce a pretty decent surface considering the rain they had. I don't think wet track racing suits Oscar Bonavina, but he had panels on these. Wasn't an easy watch at the 600. He's back on the inside, and I was like, Marky, what are you doing? But I think he knew what he was doing, and he usually does. And this horse has bolted him. I think he'll be staying away from Australia. He'll stay local, Greg, and pick up some of the scraps. And if he doesn't have to race Sunday Sun and bolt for Brilliance and Majestic Man's over there, well, he's going to be too good for most of the domestic horses for the next couple of months if they choose to continue racing him over the summer. That was the trot, so he just bolted him. Pace went to another horse I wasn't sure would handle Sticky Grass. Here's Ultra Wise Guy. Sat parked in this race, and he's a speed horse, but these are pretty good horses. Here's Cranbourne out wide trying to get to him. That's Classy Brigade out even wider, and Henry Hubert had worked quite hard to lead. I thought, Greg, this was a really big performance. I'm not sure why I didn't think he would like a grass wet track, maybe because he is a speed horse, but I think he's strengthened a lot, and he's going to be an open class fixture at some stage. I still think BD Joe's the better of the Telfer 2, but this horse is going to give them a nice 1-2 punch in the open class races, Greg, in the next couple of years. So, and Tim Williams is just now routinely driving winners every week, Greg. So I think that Stonewall Stud thing down south is going to be a very big force in southern racing for quite some time. Yeah,
a couple of big wins for him. Now he's won the Age Pace and now the Methven Green Mile, so he's close to $100,000. Right, let's get to Addington Raceway Friday night. It's playing the undercard in many ways to the Auckland meeting, but I tell you what, there's some good races there, and one of those features Regal Attire, who was second behind Love in the Port. This is one of these transition races, Michael. That's Love in the Port hitting the lead. Of course, a winner on Cup Day, Dubois to his outside, and here's Regal Attire. Look, I don't know how genuine he's been sometimes in his races, but the way he found the line here, I reckon he'll be hard to beat in race number 5 on Friday night, Michael.
And also, Greg, he might be one of those horses who's mentally weak, and he's so young, but because he's so well bred, people expect him to just turn up and be a really good horse because of the stable he's in. But maybe he won't be a good horse until he's 4 or 5 or 6. So when they hit the line that hard behind a horse who's going to be an open class horse and Love in the Port, I think Regal Attire suffers from what he did early and what we've expected of him since, Greg, because if he was in a smaller stable and he wasn't bred the way he was and wasn't favoured all the time or most of the time, people would go, wow, that's a pretty nice horse.
They would. And when you look at his record, Michael, what's he got to? Oh, nearly $60,000. Most people would be quite happy with that. And of course, bred by the Breckons, it's a wonderful breed of theirs. Let's go to Steal the Show, though. He's in a free-for-all race this week that is not as strong as last time. It's all about faith in front, and he has to come up with barrier 9 this week, which won't be easy under the Pref barrier draw system. Pace and Pride to his inside, Laver in barrier 7, and True Fantasy, and that horse I highlighted before, Last of the Mohicans. It's probably not a great race on the handicapping conditions for him, but Steal the Show, the way he's racing, he's got to be the one to beat again, Michael.
Well, he's also got to get some respect from most of those horses. Laver doesn't tend to respect anybody, and that's great. It's good fun for racing. But I feel for True Fantasy, Greg. I mean, technically, I know she's actually 3, but she's only a 2-year-old in this race, and she just shouldn't have to race these horses. It's nobody's fault. No one's done anything wrong here. It's just a case where that's what we've got at the moment with their horse numbers, Greg. But it does seem a bit weird. I know she's 3, but as a 2-year-old filly, her being in that field. But I agree with you. Steal the Show has to be the one to beat. Just, Greg, we mentioned earlier, we teased at the start of the show, the big news coming out, and we're talking about Addington and Regal Attire and the Purden and Cullen team. I believe you've got some big news around that.
Yeah, I spoke to Natalie Rasmussen today and she confirmed, they talked to the staff this morning, the partnership will remain Mark Purden and Hayden Cullen. So we all thought, and it was discussed around plenty of smoko rooms I'm sure, that Natalie Rasmussen and Mark Purden were coming back on the 1st of January, so 12 months since that partnership was dissolved, but that's not the case. It will remain Mark Purden and Hayden Cullen, confirmed today, so that's a pretty big piece of news there. Now we need to go to another break, but before we do that, milestone it was. Yes, Matthew Williamson became the 26th driver to achieve the 1,000 wins, joined that club. On Friday night at Addington Raceway, they made a small presentation to him. Nigel Armstrong and his Unhinged team were there, so we got them to record this for us and celebrate the moment with Matthew.
Matthew Williamson, going back to the early days, I've heard rumour that you were quite handy on foot with the cross country.
Oh, yep, no, still handy on foot, Nigel, still handy on foot.
So tell me something about that. School?
School, yep, never excelled at the studying part or that, yet didn't have the brains for that, but the sports side, loved that, yeah.
So, again, I've heard whisper has it from your father, of course, that captain of the North Otago schoolboys rugby, was it?
Yeah, at about age 9. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than that, but no, it was good early on, and then everyone else got bigger.
Okay, yeah. Well, he tells me you were like the pocket dynamo out there on the field.
He's laid it on thick. Yeah,
he's laid it on thick. So, did it ever occur to you that you'd carry on those sort of footsteps, or were you always destined for racehorses?
I had quite a bad knockout on a motorbike when I was younger, and that sort of curtailed all that sort of stuff. And then, wasn't interested in the horses. Always followed it because obviously Dad and Mum were away to the races every week. But so we went and used to just usually play rugby or that at the races. And but yeah, never really got interested till Phil sucked me in when the first drive at home. And then once you get that feeling, you're done.
So your brothers, have they been a big influence on you? I mean, Nathan firstly, he started off, I suppose, and you're following in his footsteps?
Yeah, well, we worked together for a long time at Dad's. I'd say Nath was probably 3 or 4 years there that I was working with while Nath was there. And Dad had a great team then, and it was really good times, and obviously learning a lot from both of them. So, and then Nath's obviously gone on to be very successful at everything he's done, and they're good critiques of driving. Dad was a pretty good driver, and he's sharp enough to know what you're doing wrong, and because they're family, they don't hold back. Yeah. So even today, Dad's given me a couple of rips. So even now he's still into me. So it helps keeps you level and thinking about what you're doing.
So what stage did you start? Were you like one of those kids that starts leading them around when he's 3 and?
Oh yeah. No, Dad's got video of his first good horse, role model driving him around in the cart. Might have been like 5, and we're on our own, like stuff that people wouldn't be too happy with seeing now. But we're driving him around the yard at Dad's, and he's trotting, and he was a lovely old horse. And yeah, we're trotting along, slapping him along, and just free, and he's trotting around the yard, about 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, crazy stuff. But so that was the early stuff, and then me and Nath, they got a couple of riding for disabled ponies, and Dad broke them into saddle and like the cart into harness, and we used to race them. Yeah, and Nath had first pick. He was the older brother, and he had a better one, but didn't stop me trying.
As the older brothers should have.
Yeah, it didn't stop me trying to beat him. So there needs to be a few domestics.
We fast forward a bit to Dick Prendergast colours. Now tell me something about that.
Yeah, well, Dad used to work for Dick, and then one day at the trials there at Ashburton, Dick he'd been just renewing his colours every year, and obviously got sick of paying, and said, "Would you like to take them on?" He said, it'd be good to see them out and about before I'm gone. So that's how it's worked, and yeah, they're really nice colours, and they had a lot of good horses in them. So try and emulate and win some of those races. I think he won a Dominion. So
they're very distinctive, aren't they? The colours, they almost look like the Phil's colours and everyone else's. They're.
Yeah, well, they got the cross same as Phil has, but just different colours. But yeah, they're nice colours. So yeah, I was rapt, an honour to have them.
Absolutely. So again, we're going to sneak forward again. We're looking at Charlotte and Sadie. You've become a family man. There's number 2's on the way.
Number 2's on the way very, very shortly. Yeah, no, family man yet. No, half of what I was.
So your hands on Dad?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, Charlotte wouldn't have me otherwise, I'd say.
Yeah.
So no, hands-on dad. I get involved, do the diapers and that when I have to. But as you know, with racing, I'm not there that often. But any day I'm not at the races, I'm around the house. Especially now, I've got a wee bit more time with training. I can, you know, work the horses around that, and I've got great help. Brooke, who works for me and Charlotte, and Barry White helps out a lot. So I've got great help that way. That I get home at a reasonable hour and can spend some time with her, especially now she's starting to get a bit older.
So Charlotte would trust you to have the Sadie home alone?
Yeah. There's usually a couple. Yeah, the trust has been built. There's usually a couple. There's a strict regime, but sometimes I vary and get a smack across the hand when she's been eating things she wasn't allowed to be.
Is it something that where you'd think that with your kids that you'd like to bring them into a racing future?
I've probably taken a leaf out of Dad's book, just letting them do, you know, what they wanted to do. But definitely no issue with, like, it's a great industry. The people you meet are super, you know. You know, you go to the races and half of the enjoyment of going is catching up with people because they're all just such nice people, you know, best people you'd meet. So, you know, for that side of it, it'd be, you know, anyone getting into racing, it's a great sport for that. And, you know, if you're successful at it, you can make a good living at it too.
Having the kids, has that changed how you've looked at life? Do you look at it and do you think, hey, I need to make some money, I need to provide for Charlotte and Sadie? And
oh yeah, definitely it does. As everyone knows that's had kids, it's a massive life changer, and it's the greatest thing that can, you know, happen in your life. So yeah, just trying to, I suppose, you know, provide them the best life you can. So you just try and do your best, but probably also, you know, you've got to look after yourself a wee bit better too, because you've got to be around for them too, you know. So any of the silly risks I'd have took before in life, I don't, you know, you don't take those as much now. So yeah, that's probably brought that side of it into a little bit more. Train a Group 1 winner would be massive if we could get to that, but we're starting to get some nice horses sent to us, so it'll be our fault, not theirs, if they can't do the job. We've got a few well-bred ones and that coming through, so that's the sort of stuff that we're focusing on now, is trying to get a few nice horses and build that side of it.
So if it came down to the Dominion or the New Zealand Cup, where is Matthew lying?
I'm a New Zealand Cup man, believe it or not. The Cup would be me if I could have it. Yeah. I know we're sort of known trotting men, but the Cup is the race for me. You know, people talk about Dominions and that, and it doesn't mean anywhere near what a Cup would mean to me. Cup would be, that'd be nearly hang up the boots day, you know, like that would be just huge. That would be, if I could have one race, that would be it.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Matthew. It's a great insight into the family man which you've become.
A great honour for you.
Welcome back into your boxer. Yes, congratulations to Matthew Williamson. Now he's at 1,004 winners. It took him a wee while to get there, but he just drives winner after winner since then, so he's well on his way to the next 1,000 wins. Let's go to the hits and misses from last week. Love and the Port was one of those. 3,500 at $2.30. Old Town Road won again. Oscar Bonavina obviously did. $1.15 was pretty short. Always Have Faith got beaten, but gets its chance redemption at Addington this week, and it's all about Faith since his Cup week exploits has been beaten a couple of times, including someone who had 2,000 on at $3.20. What about the racing this week? And the map has returned. A big thank you to Cameron J. Shaw, who's now allowed back in the Auckland studios. Here's this week's race meetings. As we go to Wyndham on Wednesday, 1:50 the start time there with the 9 races. Thursday, Cambridge, 10 there, 4:59. Michael and I have both got our Rakiro Racing best bets there this week. Alexandra Park, Group 1, Queen of Hearts with Roslins, $100,000 there. The Summer Cup at 30 and the Northern Stakes at 25,000. 6:17 is the start time for Alexandra Park. They've actually got 10 races, so that's a good thing. 10 races at Addington. In fact, it's the other way around. 9 there, 5:17 the start time. Waireo Cup on Saturday, 12 o'clock start, 10 races there. It's the Winton meeting, or it's at the Winton track, and a Rangiora Summer Cup, 11 races there, the first of those at 12 o'clock. All right, Rakiro Racing Best Bets of the Week. You got yours up last week in Bolt for Brilliance, Michael. What have you found for us this week?
It was a bit short, Greg, and I'll be honest, it's hard to do the selections because often the fields are coming out so late. Like harness racing, you don't need to get this together. Fields are often delayed, often coming out late. It's partially a club issue, but our fields declaration system in this country is a joke. It's an absolute joke. And I'm not saying that because I'm picking horses now. It just is. There's not another jurisdiction in the world that does this, Greg. So for what it's worth, I'll go New York Minute at Cambridge on Thursday night, and I hope it wins. I think he's a long way down in grade, but somewhere, Greg, we've got to sort the system out, because if I go to the Australian harness racing sites, the fields come out at the same time every week.
Yep.
Most people in New Zealand have no idea when the fields are coming out. The sooner the entire thing is done by one office, the better, and there's not a person who can convince me that's not right.
Race 7, number 11 for you. Glenthorne's headed north, and of course under the Cambridge bonus system that we promoted and highlighted about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he's going up there for that. Why wouldn't he? Race 8, number 6. Oh, gee, it'll be hard to beat over 2,200 metres. I think Michael will be in front, and he'll be really hard to chase down. Show Me Heaven's the winner we've got for Wairio on Saturday from Jason Broad and the team down there. Race 6, number 5. Details around our shows coming up. Basically, we go right through to the end of the year. Our last show will be on the 29th of December, which will preview the big Alexandra Park New Year meeting. Then we have a spell, Michael. We'll make our way back on air on the 25th or thereabouts of January. That's 2 weeks before the New Zealand Bloodstock Yearling Sales and the first ever Harness Million Night. So it's important we get a couple of weeks in there. Plus, we'll hopefully have you in Australia for all the big harness action there.
For Sunday Sun and for Copy That, Greg. So some great racing coming up. Alexandra Park this week's going to be huge to all of our viewers around Australasia. Thanks for watching. And once again, to Team Brosnan, the Kiwis who won an Inter-Dominion. Congratulations from all of us back here at home.
Yep, certainly echo those sentiments. That's been your box seat. We'll see you in 7 days' time.